Hello. Thank you all for tuning in to the GFF live stream. I hope you enjoyed the From the Streets Shorts program. My name is Steph Berrington, and I'm the short film programmer for Gimli Film Festival. I'm joined here by several of the filmmakers from tonight's program. Before we jump into the Q&A, though, I'd like to thank Johnston Group for once again sponsoring the Manitoba and Canadian short films at GFF this year. If you liked what you saw tonight, please consider sending us a donation, which you can do right below the video player if you click on the donate button. Your support of the festival and of independent cinema is very much appreciated. And of course, please also send us your questions by typing them into the chat box. All right, so let's get started. I think we'll go around the group and I'll call you out one by one, and you can tell us your full name, where you're calling in from, which project you were involved in, and maybe give us a little bit of a backstory to get the conversation going. So basically, like, what led you to tell this story? So we'll start with Ben. How about you?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks to the whole Gimli crew. So my name is Ben Balcom. The film I made is Garden City Beautiful. Shot here in Milwaukee, where I live and work and teach. And just, I guess, two big things I'd say about where that project originates. I haven't always been the kind of filmmaker who works with actors or performers. So over the last couple of films, that's been like a predominant interest of mine, is working with the human figure and finding ways to engage performance. But more specifically, it's part of an ongoing series of films intended to engage with, I think, under-acknowledged, under-recognized parts of the Wisconsin and Milwaukee history. Specifically, its relatively progressive socialist origins. So just a way of sort of unpacking some of those histories.
Very cool, thank you. Angelina, how about you?
Oh, hi, I'm Angelina McLeod. Originally from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation. I actually moved away from home for a long time, and I went, did some film training and all that, and by chance I met up with producer Alicia Smith through the consultant from Shoal Lake 40. So she hooked us up, and next thing you know, I'm directing the Freedom Road series. And yeah, and so it's a series of 5 films. There's men, women's, elders, youth, and the context film. And the one that's showing for this festival is the women's film. It shows the struggles and the hardships that the community has been through, and the women telling their stories with their hardships with their families and getting groceries and all that stuff. They just talk about it from, like, it's been a long journey for the road. So
yeah, the first story where she talks about having just given birth and then having to go across the water with her, like, brand new baby. That's so stressful. You can just hearing the story makes me stressed. Can't imagine.
Yeah, it's really a long time coming, but we finally got our road, so we no longer have to cross by ice. We could use the road now, and so, but that's just one step. We have lots of things to go. Like, we still need our water and sewage treatment plant and everything like that. Yeah, clean water.
Yeah.
But yeah. So,
Pixie, how about you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Pixie Cram. Streaming from Ottawa, unceded Algonquin territory of the national capital. My film is Pragmatopia, and the inspiration came from the nuclear event, the Fukushima reactor meltdown, 2009. I think it was 9 or 10, I started to develop the project, and I did a lot of research about Chernobyl, and that gave me the idea to set the film in the woods, in this wilderness where there's some life, but we're not too sure what the danger is.
Cool, thank you. Miriam, how about you? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry.
Can't hear her.
Okay.
There we go.
Hello everyone, I'm Mariam Zari. I'm from Iran originally. Now I'm living in Toronto. And my film was Microlan. It's a weird name, I know. And the inspiration comes from maybe the main thing for me was contrast and seeing like little children, especially in Iran, looking in the garbage for food or something like that. And I was always thinking like it's a little girl, it's a little boy, why she or he should be here. And like the contrast that is in it, like for a little one, like little beautiful creature to be in a lot of garbage and looking for food. It starts from that, and then the rest came.
Cool. Thank you. Nikolai.
Hi there, my name is Nikolai Mihailov. I'm streaming in from Toronto, and my film was called Sophia. I made the film in the summer of 2018 while visiting with my family to settle up some family things after the passing of my grandfather. And I wanted to make a portrait of a different kind of smaller place in Sofia called Manja Street while I was there. But that kind of fell through because it was getting demolished to build condos. So when that idea fell through, I turned the camera onto the place where both my parents grew up in two different neighborhoods called Slatina and another one called Dianabad. And these were places that I visited throughout my life intermittently. But I kind of had this distance too because I didn't speak the language, even though I was born in the city of Sofia. So yeah, I just kind of turned the camera towards these places and tried to create a different portrait that kind of reflected the realities there while also trying to understand them as I kind of learned them from my family and the people I talked to there, and something that's always been on the periphery for me while living here in Canada.
Cool. So the voiceover, that's you in conversation with whom?
So that's me in conversation with my cousin Danny, who's around the same age as me, who is a bookie, on and off bookie. And yeah, when I was shooting the film in Sofia, I didn't know that conversation would happen. It kind of came to me like when I got home and I looked at the footage, and I was just trying to find a way to relay this place that I found so beautiful, but also so broken. Just again, through all the conversations I had with him and my other family members and, just the locals who live there.
Wow. And then, so I kind of knew of you initially as a cinematographer. You've worked with Kazik, Radwanski, and Anna 13,000 Feet and some of his other films. So was this your first directorial, was this your directorial debut kind of thing?
It was not. I made a short film a few years ago called It's No Real Pleasure in Life that played at VIFF and FNC and another European film festival. This was my first documentary, I guess. So I've always had an interest in directing films as well. Cinematography is kind of like my bread and butter and what I do as work, and I obviously love it. But yeah, when I have the opportunity or if the idea strikes me, I definitely like to go behind the camera in other ways.
Cool, that's fun. Mary, I'm going to you. I noticed in the chat while your film was playing, or I guess just after your film finished, someone commented about the kids and how, lovely they were in the film and what good actors they were. And I guess, could you talk a bit more about how you kind of got those kids involved in the project? Are they child actors? And then what it was like kind of working with kids and directing kids?
Sure. No, it was it was my first experience in filmmaking and also their first experience in acting. I have 10 years experience in theater, directing theater. So yeah, I found them, like I was looking for a little blind girl, and I found her in her school, like in, I don't know, it's kind of a school for them in Iran. I went there, and I had several people to interview with, and then I chose her, and she born blind. So and I think she is really, really she smart. She didn't have any problem. Like the first session of rehearsal, I gave her the script, and in the second session, she memorized everything, like all other people's dialogues as well. And she was telling everybody, "Dad, you should say this now. Now you should say this." And she knows everything about everyone. And I really didn't have any problem with them at all. And Taha, like the boy, I found him at the same place because her parents are, I don't know what's the English word, thief, deaf, deaf. They can't hear.
Okay.
Yeah, so I found him there as well because their parents, his parents were working in the same school, so they just show him to me, and it was very good choice because he's like a little man who has a family that he has to support them. So he was very, very supportive, and that was the thing that I really need in the film. And they were really good. They both are very smart. I didn't have any problem. Even last day of the shooting, we had like 20 hours working without any rest. And they both were like okay with it. They were so tired, and like Atana, the little girl, keeps asking me, "Mrs. Zari, when our class will be done?" And I was like, "A bit more, just wait a bit, and it will be done soon." So yeah, it was really, really good experience working with them.
Oh wow! And they're naturals. They're so good.
Yeah, yeah, they are. Yeah, and we had 2 months of rehearsals, like very hard rehearsals, like 5-6 hours per day.
Yeah. Are they hooked now? Are they acting in other things? Did they like it?
Yeah, like the brother is working a bit, like in some other short films, but not Atana, not the little one.
Cute. So Pixie, so your film was inspired by, in part, you said like Chernobyl and all of this kind of stuff. So it's like very kind of apocalyptic. In theme, but yet in like style, it's so dreamy and soft and like gentle, and it's such an interesting like way to present it, I guess. And so I would love to hear you talk about how you kind of chose, or why you chose to present this kind of apocalyptic story in this kind of like lovely way, and yeah, and some of the, I guess, ways that you evoked that feeling.
Oh, thank you. Well, so I've always been fascinated with the future, and I love the genre of post-apocalyptic, but I'm someone who I don't like violence, and I don't like making, I didn't want to tell a dark story. I wanted to make a utopia, hence the title, which is taken from an American philosopher named Riane Eisler. Her philosophy she made the word pragmatopia. It's a real place. It's not no place. So I wanted to make a utopia. I wanted to make a story about the dissolution of society leading to a new paradigm that is hopeful and that is full of peace. And this also is sort of from Riane's writings too. She talked about in her book, The Chalice and the Blade, a future where, we let go of that story that men and women are violent and they're always trying to, kill each other and yada, yada. Like, it was like this idea that we could maybe develop something new, like a peaceful way of being together. So that was the impetus behind the film, was to paint this picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The camera work is so soft and like the colors are so nice. Was it you shooting? Were you shooting it?
No, it wasn't me. It was a cinematographer here in Ottawa named Ben Hoskin.
Okay.
And we worked pretty closely together, and yeah, he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, very cool. Angelina, let's go to you. So you said that this was a part of a broader series. That's, by the way, to everyone watching, it's available on the NFB website. So nfb.ca, you can check out the whole series on there. I guess, was this an idea? Did you want to tell this story for a while? Had this been something you were...
It actually was my idea for a long time, like telling the stories about the struggles of Shoal Lake. And I've been an advocate for Shoal Lake for a long time, like raising awareness all over the place. And that's why I took film training, because I wanted to tell the stories of our people and from our people, like because I'm from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation, right? And so I thought it was important for someone from the community to tell the stories from our own people, from our own community. Yeah. And it was a really good experience. I got to reconnect with everybody. I was not there for since I left for high school. I got sent away for high school when I was 14. Like, they sent us away to boarding homes. And that was my first time coming home, was during the filming of Freedom Road. And it actually brought me home. And so now I'm actually working there, and in leadership. So it was actually really rewarding process. Yeah.
Very cool. And was the community kind of eager to share their stories with you and in the film?
Yes, there's some of them are a bit shy though. So but they were very eager to tell their stories. With me, it seemed like they were a lot more comfortable with me interviewing and telling the stories. Yeah. So I think that's why it went so well with the interview process. And I had to. It was a different way of filmmaking, actually. Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
because they were shy. Some people were shy.
Yeah, and you're in some of the shots, like that first scene in this film. You're sitting at the kitchen table with the woman who's talking, and so I that's a nice way to, I guess, do the interview process. You're both kind of sitting down together. It's not just behind the camera,
Yeah, it was really, really personal, personal conversations. We just had my DOP and my sound recordist there, and it just made everybody feel a lot more comfortable, just the three of us being in there. Yeah, it was personal, yeah.
Intimate.
Yeah.
Very cool. Ben, moving on to you. We had a question come in from the audience. This is great. And the question actually that I was dying to ask you as well. How did you do the people sleeping in the car part? It was so nice and dreamy. Was it a self-driving car?
Thank you. And I saw in the chat actually that that someone had mentioned this as well. And I feel like I always want to rethink the reading of that final image, because the intention was never to portray a technologically advanced scenario. It's not actually intended to be seen as a self-driving vehicle. My intentions for that image are that it be read more affectively or metaphorically. That was the first image that I thought of when conceptualizing this film, the one that I held on to the longest and really wanted to enact, because it just feels like a perfect way of thinking about, to use a really broad generalization, the American mind or the American people like asleep at a wheel, that is careening towards, potential hazard at all times. And so just thinking about it really as like a disposition towards the future in which there is not enough control and a sense of kind of imminent danger and just like unconsciousness. That said, the image itself was constructed by taking my friend's small Toyota car, putting it on a U-Haul rental trailer and pulling that behind another friend's SUV, and building a really janky little camera mount myself, which is something I had never done before. And yeah, just driving it down the highway, hoping that we didn't get pulled over. And everyone the entire time completely nervous, for everyone's well-being and the camera's well-being, et cetera. So yeah, just like a little experiment in kind of homemade DIY filmmaking. Yeah, and I guess it's nice that people occasionally read it as like an autonomous vehicle, because I think there's nothing, if not horror, to be found in those like images of people asleep at their Teslas. But that, so I welcome it, but it's sort of like, really us being asleep at the wheel was like what I had hoped to evoke.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because the person who sent in this question had like a positive reading of it. They said it was so nice and dreamy, but when I was watching it, I was like stressed. I was like, is this gonna go well? Like,
yeah, I think it's really sad. I want it, especially because we see these characters speaking these words that are at times very optimistic in these two registers, one that might evoke a kind of presence, the voiceover with the landscape, like this is the future enacted, but then you see the same language being spoken by them with their eyes closed, asleep, which is both like restful and kind of like, what is the relationship between these figures and what they're saying? And then at the very end, the kind of the fully unconscious nature of them. I mean, the music is soft and lilting and beautiful, but yeah, I feel it's really sad. And yeah, that's sort of maybe where my head was at.
Yeah. And like, so Pixie was talking about the inspiration for Pragmatopia, or one of the inspirations being an American philosopher. And you also were, the text you were using for the film was from Victor Berger.
Yeah, that's right.
A little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So again, just kind of digging into my cities and states' history, trying to understand like this really radical shift that happened in Wisconsin, where it went from, the state was founded by abolitionists, essentially, and people who believed in, pretty radical equality and equitable construction of society. But it has been completely inverted. The public sector has been, massively defunded. And those ideas are embedded in what's called the Wisconsin idea. And so I wanted to know what that was all about. So I started reading into the history of the sewer socialists, who were the party that helped to really define the city's infrastructure as we know it today in the late 19th century. And in that research, I found this letter that Victor Berger had written for the Milwaukee's main paper, imagining a city of the future 50 years forward from when he was writing it, in which capitalism had fallen, essentially. And what I was so enamored of in that letter was that, one, it's a work of speculative fiction, which connected me to like a film I had made previously, using the work directly of a science fiction author. But two, what he's proposing is, I love this idea of pragmatopia. I'd never heard of it before. It's very pragmatic shifts in how we structure our life, like shorter work days. Don't like, let's get rid of the marriage as tax incentive. Work less, have vacations, just like, simple imaginations of well-being, daily, wellness and well-being. So yeah, it was just kind of like, I want to use this language and I want to keep it as undisturbed as possible. So it's essentially unedited.
Wow. Angelina, we had a question come in for you. So the question is, how is the community of Shoal Lake doing now post-road? Has it solved a lot of the issues? What is going on there now?
It actually it didn't solve all the issues, but the road actually is we're able to bring in the equipment for the water and sewage treatment plant now. So all the supplies are coming in, the pipes are being laid out. So our new school is being built. We can bring all the lumber and everything that we needed that we couldn't bring to the island before. So a lot of things are changing, yeah, and the roads are improving. And we have new housing developments that are going to be that are being planned. I think in the next year. So yeah, so a lot of changes, a lot of positive changes are happening with Freedom Road. So it's basically given us freedom.
Amazing.
We can just go for a drive and get groceries now. We don't have to like take a boat or a ferry. Yeah, it's easy.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So Pixie, the actors that you worked with in the film, it's actually funny. For those watching, I'm also based in Ottawa right now, and as is Pixie. And one of the guy in the actor in the film, I run into him occasionally on the streets, but I don't think I've ever met him officially, but he's so familiar to me because I've seen this movie. So I always want to say hi, and then I'm like, he probably won't know who I am. But I'm curious, did you have auditions? Were these just kind of friends that you invited to be in your film, or was it more of a formal process?
Oh, yeah. So I did auditions. The backstory to that was that I'm also an animator, and I had proposed to do the film actually as a pixelation, if you can imagine. And so when we auditioned people, we actually got them to kind of move in small increments, and we took photographs of them. And it's an experimental technique that I'm still working on, and I would like one day to make a pixelated fiction film. A reference people might know is Gravity Was Everywhere back then. He used that technique to make a feature film. It's an American director. I don't remember his name right now. Anyhow, so yes, we did auditions, and they were strange auditions. And the people who we ended up with the leads, they just, the gentleman you keep running into, he's actually a filmmaker. His name is Mathieu Hallé.
Okay.
He makes films, but he's also highly collaborative. He works on all kinds of different projects because he's told me that it helps him to become a better director himself. Sage Wright is the lead, and she's an Indigenous actor. She's based in Montreal, but she grew up in this region here. And then Katrina Bray is an actor who is back in Saskatchewan now, but had lived in Ottawa at the time, and I'd worked with her before. And then all of the young people, like the children and the forages at the end, came through a call that I had made to the community at large, but it was a lot of permaculturalists, gardeners, foragers, survivalists, the sort of land activist types came out and were involved in the scenes at the end of the film and really helped me add some detail and some realism to those pictures, because I didn't know a lot about that kind of thing when I started.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Mariam, so we had a question come in for you, and it was actually a question I was also wanting to ask you as well. Where was your film shot? Could you talk about the set? It was an incredible setting.
Yeah, sure. We tried a lot to find somewhere for shooting, but because of the bad situation in Iran, like the economic situation, all of them are closed, or they only have 1 or 2 cars or something like that. Finally, we found a space out of the city, Tehran. That was a very, very big place with like a lot of like junkyards. Each of them had like 2-3 cars in them. So we collect all of them. I learned how to drive a lift truck, and all my other crew learned how to drive lift trucks. We just collect them all and we brought them together. We put them on top of each other and we colored all of them because most of them were white. So we colored all the cars over there. We made all the space. And for the home, we made it from the beginning. Me and my set designer, because it was my first film, I didn't have a lot of crew. I didn't have a lot of budget. Like the budget was almost $2,000 for the
Wow.
whole. Yeah. So yeah, we just made the even home, and I learned how to make a little room even during the process. So everything that is there, we made it.
Wow, that's super cool. And so this was your first film, which is pretty amazing. And it played at Berlin. Was it last year or it played at Berlin, right?
Yeah, 2019, the premiere was in Berlin Film Festival.
That's pretty exciting for a first-time filmmaker to get into a festival like that. Wow.
It was, yeah, really.
Did you go to the festival?
Yeah, I went there. I went there with some of my crew, and it was really great to be there and see everything. Like it was in our, dreams before, and we were there actually. So yeah, it was really good.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
That's fun. Nikolai, we had a question come in for you. Have you been back to Sofia since making this? Your cousin seems to be pretty negative about it, but how do you feel about it?
I have not been back. I was hoping to go back this summer, but COVID obviously disrupted that. Yeah, I mean, the attitude there right now is still really negative. I don't know, like Bulgaria is not really on the radar for a lot of people. It's a pretty small country, but right now there's demonstrations happening every day because of the political climate going on there. The government, kind of what Danny's talking about in the film. People are just kind of fed up now. Danny kind of says, he talks about fear a lot, and I feel like people are kind of subverting that right now, and they're standing up to what they believe in. And so how I feel about it, yeah, I'm upset as well. I'm upset because my whole family lives there, and they're affected by that. And when they're affected, I'm affected. So will there be accountability? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think a lot of people have to step up to the plate, not just the people who are being accused of corruption in Bulgaria, but the European Union, the media that reports it, everything. So
Yeah. And Danny says at one point, I think it's at the end of the film, like money and fear. And it's like such a kind of punch, like money and fear that rules Sofia or Bulgaria. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that punctuation always stood out to me. And that's just kind of the vibe when you go there and when you talk to people. Like I would say Danny and my family, they're generally positive, happy people, but the circumstances there ultimately define their life. And so, they'll have a good day, but then the next day it'll be kind of shitty just because of what's going on over there. Yeah.
Yeah. How does Danny feel about the film? Does he like it?
He's pretty self-conscious. I think actually my whole family, after watching the film, it was maybe a little unsettling or upsetting just because it's so close to home, and that's old news to them. You know what I mean? Like this is what they talk about all the time. So yeah, I mean, I think he's happy for me, but he's also he thinks he sounds stupid. He doesn't think he's very articulate in the film, but I disagree. I think he's just talking like everyone else would talk about the situation. So, and it's pretty candid. I think that's important too for the film.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much it for questions coming in. I think we should wrap it up by doing a quick go around, and maybe everyone could share what they've been up to, like under quarantine, any projects on the burner or whatever they say. Ben, how about we start with you?
Yeah, reading lots of Octavia Butler novels. Highly recommend for anyone in the audience who has not taken the dive. It's nice here in Milwaukee, so I've been trying to be outside as much as possible. And then I guess slowly working on a couple of follow-up projects to Garden City Beautiful, kind of continuing that train of thought, investigating various, I guess you'd say, yeah, utopian imaginings of the future. The next project is an adaptation of a novel written by William Morris called News from Nowhere. So.
Cool. Angelina, what have you been up to?
Well, recently I just, well, after I directed Freedom Road and all that stuff, I got nominated for band counselor for Shoal Lake 40. So, and then I won the election. But I'm also working on some art projects on the side. I have, it's called From Online Activism to Birch Bark Scrolls. It's, you can find it online. It's part of the Contour Archive project from Toronto, that's Symposium. But yeah, so that should be done by next year and should be showcased at the Urban Shaman Gallery. And I'm also working on a book on the Midday Wind Birch Bark Scrolls that were held by my grand uncle James Redsky. So it contains a lot of photography and the creation story, the migration story, and how the Anishinaabe people came to be.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. So Pixie, what about you?
I'm in the studio this summer working with some dancers doing pixelation. I got some funding last year and had to put off the work, and eventually we were like, okay, well, let's just go and do it with masks on, and everyone is staying 6 feet apart, and we're renting a studio with a big, huge garage door, so we leave it open. So there's lots of airflow, and we work outside when it's not too hot. And we're just, we're basically doing sort of these pixelated dance films right now. It's all just experimentation. I don't know where it will lead, but it's really nice to be working with a group of people a couple times a week.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds fun. Miriam, what are you up to?
I tried to read as much as possible, and I took some master classes that I had to take before, but I didn't have time for them. And also I'm working on my third film, like the script, because I made the second last year, and now I'm working on the third, and me and my husband is my like the writer of all my films and theaters that I worked. So we are working together to get the idea and write the script and everything. So I have a lot to do, and I'm so it's a very bad situation, I know, but I'm trying to use it in a very good way, and I'm happy with the time that I have to spend on things that I never had time for.
Totally. Yeah, that's great. And Nikolai, what about you?
I'm jumping into a new feature, but other than that, slowly completing my MFA at York University, and slowly shooting my thesis film for
Cool.
that. Yeah.
That's fun. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for participating, and thank you to everyone who stuck around to watch the Q&A. I'd also like to thank RBC, who has been sponsoring all of the live stream programming taking place at the festival. So yeah, it's great to be able to offer some free and accessible programming to folks. Yeah, thanks everyone. Stay safe and stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.